Hi, my name is Sharan. I'm 28 years old. I'm a journalist, author, and a documentary filmmaker living in Delhi for the last 2 years. There's a deeply personal story that I want to share with you all today if you have 2 minutes to spare. It's about how politics ruined my life. I grew up in a typical Bangalore middle-class family where my parents ran a small electrical shop in the suburbs of the city, trying to juggle through life and get me to study so that I wouldn't struggle like them. Their only hope was that I make it in life. But no matter how hard I worked, I saw that the system kept failing people like us over and over again. Everywhere I went, I saw corruption. I wanted to play for India, so I joined a cricket academy. And on the day of my selection, I saw why some people were actually getting through. They had recommendation letters in their hands. In this country, it was not about talent, it was about access. This is a country where merit does not have a place, but actually influence does. Every single day, the system gives you a reason to feel small, powerless, and absolutely worthless. And that is when I decided to drop the bat and pick up the metaphorical pen. In order to fight the system, you need to understand it well, and this was my understanding. I saw how people like Arnab Goswami took on the most powerful people and exposed several scams in the country. It was absolutely exhilarating. I wanted to be a part of this fight, and that is when I decided to join journalism. I grew up in India, so I wanted to live in India, study in India, and also die one day peacefully knowing that I've actually contributed something to the society and not just think about what I've done for myself. And I realized politics has to do with everything. It decides who gets justice, it decides who gets education and healthcare, it decides who will succeed in life. I decided I want to be in politics. Back then, I never had an idea about why money matters or why caste is a very powerful factor, but I nevertheless wanted to try. So I decided to contest for the school presidential elections, and I was pretty popular in school. So I was fairly confident that I would make it through because all my friends were campaigning for me and they said they will make me win. But to my rudest realization, I lost. When I asked my friends why I lost the elections and why they didn't vote for me, they said, "Sharan, you're a lovely guy, you're wonderful, but you're always so rigid about discipline and winning trophies for the school. We don't want any of that. We just want to be left alone because already there are teachers who are doing that job." And that is when I woke up to this apathy that the world has inculcated since they're very young. And this was quite an awakening for me. People would rather adjust than fight. I couldn't just give up. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know how this country functions, how the system works. So I kept looking for answers. I explored ideologies. I met with several political leaders. I worked with political parties in the background to understand how they actually function. And I was a part of the quizzing society, the debating society, where I went and asked why they cared so much about the American elections or what's happening in Palestine, but we rarely think about how we can fix our streetlights, for instance. I was frustrated and I had barely hit puberty. That frustration turned into action. It made me take uncomfortable risks and it led me to do more in life. When I was just 19 or 20 years old, I visited Afghanistan when the conflict was at its peak. I was just a college student at that time doing some internships to save up some money, but I wanted to see how the world works. And this led me to take a lot of risks in my 20s as a journalist when I started covering politics, society, and security. I found myself visiting a lot of deeply disaster-stricken areas. I've helped victims where there were floods and droughts. I've traveled to the jungles of Jashpur in Chhattisgarh where I met with the Korba tribe who were facing forced conversions. I met the African origin tribe in Karnataka's Karwar called the Siddhis, and I spent a lot of time in those jungles. I've also visited many hamlets across the Hindi heartland and saw how rural distress was there in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh. And this journey led me to discover many things in life. Over the years, I've written many articles for the media. I've had conversations with ministers and policymakers. I've traveled across the country. I've picked up several languages that I can speak and understand right now. And I've also tracked down victims in Godhra and made a documentary on a really deeply sensitive subject. Why did I do all of this? Because I felt like I wanted to connect with my country because I felt like I did not know enough. I wanted to understand India in its truest form, and for that, you'll have to get on the ground. As a result, I've had to live alone for the last 10 years. I've exiled myself away from home, although I keep visiting home now and then. So that's my story. I decided I would sacrifice whatever I could and do something good for the country. Because like many other Indians, like you, I took my inspiration from our freedom fighters, because that's what they tried to do, right? They gave up on everything. They gave up on food, they gave up on sleep, they gave up on their education and their marriage prospects, and they sacrificed their lives in their early 20s and 30s. And we are so deeply comfortable in our own lives that we feel that we've achieved independence, but truly we have a lot more to do. Don't get me wrong, I want to live, and I want to live a long life where I see India actually progressing. And this is the wish of many other millions of young Indians. And that's why I announced Bodh. That's why this initiative. I want the world to understand India better. And hopefully this will lead to something. This is just the beginning, and welcome to my journey.